Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Evolving with Soul. I'm Josette Diaz, and I'm a self awareness coach for women in midlife. And this is my beautiful guest, Vasi Huntalas, slash partner on my podcast. I'm going to go ahead and say it, Vasi. So, what we're doing today is we are going to be talking about uncovering personal patterns in creative expression. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. And let me just kind of reiterate what Evolving with Soul is all about. It's an enlightening and empowering conversation series that dives into the transformation journey of self discovery, personal growth, and inner wisdom. And I'd like to introduce you to Vasi Huntalas, who is the founder of Ignite Your Soul. And Vasi guides new and seasoned entrepreneurs to uncover their deeper purpose so they can create the impact their heart and soul are calling them to make. After 15 years as a traditional coach, she was led to fully embrace her gifts as an intuitive and artist. Through her journey, she broke free from her inner critic and pioneered an intuitive painting process that has helped hundreds of people find clarity, confidence, and a deeper connection with their true selves. I can attest to that personally. And now, as a breakthrough mindset mentor, she blends intuition and creativity to help visionary leaders clear subconscious blocks fast and step into their next level success aligned, effortless, and in flow with their purpose. So you have lots of wisdom sitting around this table. As small as it may be, it's a two-top today.
Yeah, like that.
And we're going to just kind of have this really good conversation around personal patterns. And so let me just kind of like tell you what that means. So the conversation, the context we're going to be speaking of around personal patterns has to do with that inner critic, that inner pattern that you have when you get responses that are fed into you from the outside world and how you respond to that, what you think about it, how it feels in your body, all those things. And we're going to discuss how the creative process can help with that and a few other things and just take it from there and see where it goes. Are you ready, Vasi? Good morning.
Yeah, I'm so ready for this juicy conversation. Thank you again, Josette, for the opportunity to explore and really dive into some of these really amazing topics for us.
Yeah, well, I love having these conversations with you, Vasi. So it's always something new and something different, and there's always so many good wisdom drops that pop in as we have these conversations, and I just love this, and I hope that our audience does too. It seems like they do, and so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and ask you my first question to get us going.
Mhm.
And that is, how do our personal patterns, both conscious and unconscious, show up in the way that we create, whether through art, writing, or other forms of expression? How would you say that you've seen or recognized in clients you've helped, in yourself, how they
Mhm.
show up?
I think they show up very much in the stories we tell ourselves
Mm,
about who we are,
mhm.
as we start something creative or we consider it or we um, have an inspiration come in. And
Yeah,
then we tell ourselves a story like, I don't have time. I'm someone who's very busy,
yeah,
or I'm someone who's not creative, or I'm someone that needs a big chunk of time to be able
yeah,
to do
right.
something. I can't, I need time to get into it. I can't do it in a few minutes. And, all those things may have been your
Mhm.
experience, right? Your
Right.
pattern of thinking. And then that shows up when we start to contemplate or start
Mhm.
to enter, a creative process, whether it be dancing, singing, art,
Right.
gardening, cooking, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So do you find that, like, that people generally stop themselves? That's kind of what I heard you saying or alluding to, that they stop themselves because they can't block off the time or they, find other things that, "Oh, I have to do this first before I can actually get creative." It's like we have to have the right mindset around it and
Yeah, or the right environment,
yeah,
right? I've
right?
had so many people tell me, "Well, I don't have the space, or I don't have this, or I don't have the right materials, or I haven't taken a class, so I don't know how to do this, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait till I take a class." So there's this pattern of procrastination,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? There's this
Yes.
pattern of procrastination, and also I would say of judgment as well. So we talk
Mhm.
about the inner critic,
Mhm.
and there's also this sense of like a pattern of delaying. Like,
Mhm.
oh, when I finish everything on my to do list, not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Yeah.
when I finish everything, then I'll make time for play, or that then I'll make
Right.
time to do something that brings me joy, as
Mhm.
opposed to, oh, I'm going to start my day from a place of joy,
Yeah,
doing something creative, and that's going to fill me up to give from that overflow.
that's true. I think that that's a really valid thing that you've just mentioned, and so many people do it, right? They even use the family that exists around them as a reason not to dive in. "Oh, the kids are home. Oh,
Yeah.
my husband's here." There's all kinds of reasons why and I also noticed that sometimes it feels like a little bit of shame, like they're
Mm.
embarrassed to bring out
Mhm.
their, painting creative side in front of the people they're closest to, and they don't want to, it's like a vulnerability.
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
agree?
Yeah. It is a vulnerability because if we're already judging ourselves, if we already
Mhm.
have an inner critic, we're
Right.
already dealing with that and we're interpreting everyone else through that lens as well.
Yes,
Like
right.
they might criticize me or they might
Mhm.
judge me. And, perhaps they're very different, those that we live with, and they don't understand having a creative practice or
Yeah.
making that a priority. However, it just like is on top of our own inner critic, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's why it's so important to be our own advocate, our own best friend, and that's where self-love comes into this whole process because we
Yeah,
don't really have most of us personal patterns of self-love. It's self-criticism,
really true. That's true.
self-assessment. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Where's the appreciation, right?
yeah.
For
What a great
ourselves?
point.
Where's the honoring
Yeah.
of that, whether you call it intuition or something that's
Mhm.
saying, "You know what? I need to take a moment right now
Yeah.
and do something that's not using my head, that's not using technology. I need to," and whatever that is for you. For me, it's
Mhm.
paint. Both of us
Mhm.
love to paint or
Yeah.
draw or, um, I know you mentioned that, and I'm not remembering the name, but perhaps you can share a little bit about that, the drawing.
Oh, like
Yeah.
neurographic? Yes, I love Neurographica. It is such a great way like, when I want to problem solve or I want to let go of a pattern, I will do Neurographica. I pull up a YouTube video, there's a few people that I like to follow that are really good certified teachers, and then I just work through whatever it is that I have going on through Neurographica. And I absolutely love it. I'm trying to think here. I think I have something.
And I
Oh,
had never heard about it till you mentioned it, so I just thought that was so intriguing.
yeah, so let me just I'll show a couple of so I did like a tree for like manifestation. Now this is
Uh-huh.
more of like not necessarily working through a pattern, but it was really fun. It was like I did it before the new year, 1 year, last year I think it was, and it was great. And then I did this other one that I find really interesting. So
Cool.
this was really more, designed to, like, bring out guidance,
Uh-huh.
and so I just started doing it, started coloring it, and then noticed that this pattern shows up. So the way I see this, to me, this looks like an indigenous woman sitting
Oh, I hadn't seen that till you
in my
pointed it out.
frame. And
Yeah.
so that's how I s and
Huh.
so that's very interesting to me because I have a in my lineage, my 6 times great grandmother on my mother's father's side
Okay.
was a Cherokee medicine woman. Now, I
Mm.
don't know if she was actually part Cherokee or not. I don't think so. Although the Museum of Alabama might disagree, they said that it was said that she was. I don't know.
Mhm, mhm.
Regardless, though, she was a medicine woman, and in the territory she lived in, she traveled around and was the doctor for the local people and did it for free, never charged anything. And she had like a bull that would pull her cart and take her to
Wow.
people's homes. So
Uh-huh.
it's interesting that, like, that showed up. I didn't have any intention of drawing it. I just wanted to see what actually appeared. And
Mm,
so this is how I love to use, the creative process to open up the doorway to certain things that I might be, wanting to release and let go of. And you can do that through because the neurographica is using, it's helping you rewire certain patterns within yourself. So it's
mm.
a great tool to tap into.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. And I'm remembering how, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, how people started coloring in, mandalas
Mhm.
and just in
Yeah,
general coloring, like going
yeah.
to cafes and bringing coloring books with them.
Mm,
And I remember looking at that and going, "Isn't that amazing that it's
mhm.
in the mass consciousness now?"
Yeah.
It's like a little opening to be creative,
Right.
right? And to give ourselves permission to do something that's not always on our phone or
Right.
on our laptop or, doing something that's related to all those left brain things.
Yes, I agree. I really have been feeling strongly how the creative process is truly an internal portal.
Mm,
Portal into yourself in a deeper, connected way, and it is the portal of possibility.
mm. Love that, Josette. Portal of possibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and that fits with a message that came in I think it was last week, last couple
Mhm.
weeks. It was, "We are the inspiration we seek."
Yes.
We are the inspiration
Yes.
we seek. So a lot
Mhm.
of times we're looking outside of ourselves, whether
Mhm.
it's social media for a meme or a quote or a book
Right.
or a mentor or an expert or, we're looking out or TV, right? We're
Yeah.
looking outside ourselves for the inspiration. But when we go within,
Mm,
which is what creativity does, it taps
yeah.
into, like you said, that portal of possibility. It is just, there's so much there. We have
Mhm.
no idea what
Really true.
what we are able to access and tap into within ourselves.
Exactly. And then from there, you can take that and emulate it out into your life, expand it.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think,
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and be an inspiration for others, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then encouraging others to look within, tap
Mhm.
into your own creativity. What is
Yeah.
in there for you? Just like, you
Mhm.
opened up something for me when you talked about neurographica. It's like, ooh, that's a whole nother way, right? And then
Yeah.
to look at your artwork, look at what you created and to understand how you're interpreting that. And
Mhm.
then maybe other people will see things. Maybe your artwork can be a portal
It's
for
true.
them. Not
Yeah.
can, it will be.
Right. Well,
And
I
I
see that
noticed
in yours.
yeah, I was just gonna say, when I started doing my 100 days of intuitive painting, it was like people started telling me what they saw as I would post the painting. They would say,
Oh,
"This
great.
is what I saw." And I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't see that before." And
Yeah.
then it took me into a different awareness because
Mhm.
there's so many layers
Mhm.
in creating, even in notes, even when someone's singing.
Yeah.
There's so much interpretations and feelings and
Right.
sensations. So I want to invite people to look at this portal of possibility is not just through artwork, through visual arts, but through
Mhm.
performing arts, right? Through all different kinds of
Yes.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I think that, it's not a lot I hear it's interesting the feedback you get around art,
Hmm.
because I think that sometimes, the word art feels scary
Yeah.
to others, and, they don't see themselves that way, and it's too emotional.
Yeah.
And so really when we don't want to engage with art or don't feel comfortable around art, are we is that I'm asking this question, is that like a reflection on your interconnectedness?
Mm, mm. Such a great question. What's coming to me in the moment is it can also be a fear
Mhm.
of what's
Mhm.
inside, because we've heard the saying, right?
Yeah.
Open Pandora's box or
Right.
something like that,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what if I see something I don't like? What if
Mhm.
I get lost? What
Yes.
if I lose my sense of who I am? What if
Right.
I discover, some darkness or something I don't want to know? So
Right.
there's this, you know, because basically we aren't encouraged in our culture to look within.
No, we're not at
At
all.
least in the United States culture, we're
Yes.
not really encouraged to look within. It's not like people ask a lot of questions as we're growing up. It's
Yeah.
more like, this is the way to
Mhm.
see things. This is the reality. This is the picture,
Yes.
right? This is who you are. This is who you aren't. And so if you question that, then it's like, who knows what might be there,
Right.
right?
Yes,
It's
it's so
very
true.
threatening to our sense of identity.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that, like, so many people what I, have recently recognized is in the structure of most working people in careers and, corporations, wherever it is that you may work, that structure doesn't necessarily support your inner wellness.
Yeah.
And that's why you hear so many people talk about trying to find balance or wanting to have a harmonious work-life balance, which the structure of work does not really even set you up for that. Like,
Yeah.
that's a very difficult and challenging environment to be in because you can't go around, saying, "Oh, well, that's a little traumatic for me." You you
Right.
don't have space for those kinds of things, and that's not how it works. It doesn't work that way, and so you spend most of your time in this structure that doesn't support you emotionally or, what's a word I wanna use around this? It's emotionally and also, um, what else is possible for you.
Mhm.
You're in an environment that encourages disconnection.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. And I'm reflecting when I was in corporate, a couple of things that I did, and if anyone is
Mm,
listening, these are some things that you could maybe easily do in that kind of environment to promote connection with yourself, is when those times that I would need to use the restroom, I would go in and I would consciously, as soon as I lock the door, take a couple deep breaths, release any tension, anxiety, check in with myself. Okay,
mhm,
what do I need to course correct? What's going on?
mhm.
And use that to recenter myself. And sometimes, I would say more than sometimes, a lot of times, I would get really great ideas. I would come out and I'd be like, "Oh," my creativity would kick in, my sense of,
Yeah.
possibility, right? I'd be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I can approach this, or I could talk to this person, or I could do this."
Mhm.
And that's because I took the time to connect with the
Yeah.
intuitive part of myself, whether you
Mhm.
call it your soul self, your
Right.
higher self, your true self, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that part of us is always there, but like you said, we're in an environment of disconnection.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was really great, and people may not have an opportunity to do this, but I would find other people
Mhm.
within the department or that I would meet, and we would just kind of sense that we had a similar commitment to that sense
That's
of connection, whether you call
yeah.
it spirituality or personal development or growth
Right.
or consciousness. And we would set up a time, like once a week or whatever, and we would find a conference room that we could use, and we would do either dream work. We would
Mm.
share our dreams, or we would be studying a book together, or something like
Mm.
that. And just being able to be with other people. Sometimes it was after hours, sometimes it was during our lunch hour.
Mhm.
It just created that connection to ourselves during
Oh,
the day and helped remind us. And it felt, I'm going to use the word safer. It felt a little safer
Yeah.
to be ourselves, to have that vulnerability. And it also felt a little rebellious. Which, you and I are both,
Right.
not rule followers. And
Yeah.
many entrepreneurs, many people that go into their own businesses are not rule followers.
Mhm.
And so if you're still working in a company or you're starting a vision or you're contemplating your own venture, it's nice to have some buddies
Yes.
also that you can have that sort of support and
Mhm.
affirming that there is that sense of connection is important for us. That sense of connection is what keeps us alive. And it's especially needed when we're in those structures of disconnection.
Yeah, I think that that just, summarizes so many things that we've been talking about as far as, like, bringing that that's such a creative thing to do, like, to bring other women together or other, people that you work with that are like-minded and create something that's just your own. It's such a great support system for you, and, that helps you to grow in ways that help you in your career. And I think that that's something that kinda gets missed. I think that creativity is looked at as fun, as, it's relaxing or whatever you might think. Some people might find it daunting, like, 'cause, when I first started to open myself up to creativity, I'm sure you remember this, I would look at the blank page and have no idea what to do.
Mhm.
And I would, like, draw stuff, and I'd see other people, and I know, and then that time I compared myself thinking that, "Oh gosh, I don't even know how to do what they're doing. They're able to just, like, come up with something, and me, I'm, like, drawing little squiggly lines and not knowing it made no sense when I was finished with it. And I never really enjoyed what I did, and so I always felt disappointed in myself. So there's an internal pattern right there that gets revealed,
Mhm.
and so that's what we were, kind of to bring it back to full circle is that what we've been talking about, all of these different, elements will reveal to you whether you're trying to or not, um, what the internal process you have about how you treat yourself, how you think
Mhm.
about yourself, how you talk to yourself will show up. And if you're brave enough to dive into that, there's so much that you can, increase
Mhm.
within yourself and strengthen within yourself through that creative process. So it's so worth the opportunity that you could take to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And you brought up two really good points, which is self-talk
Mhm.
is such an indicator of our personal patterns. So the more we can listen to our self-talk without judgment, just
Mhm.
as an observer, just like
Yeah,
as a witness, maybe even writing it down,
yeah.
make creating that awareness, like this is how I talk to myself. This is
Mhm.
how I empower myself, or this is how I support myself, or this is how I demean myself.
Yeah.
This is how I disrespect or dishonor myself,
Mhm.
or this is how I see myself. So, regardless, that self talk is a way for us to understand what's going on. And then once that's visible, through creativity, because your self talk has changed now.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
if you have that awareness and you're looking at your self talk or you're listening to your self talk and you're like starting to encourage yourself, eventually it will change.
Mhm.
And then you stop comparing yourself to others,
Right.
and so that's where we have a chance to shift our patterns
Yeah.
is look at what comes up and don't let the self-talk stop you
Mhm.
if it's negative. That's the most important thing. If that self-talk is like the bully,
Right?
there was times when I first started intuitive painting again as an adult, I was like, wow, I am really bullying myself. That's a really mean thing to say. I was like, you go sit in the corner, you
Yeah.
inner critic. That is not nice. And then once that inner critic, that inner bully was in the corner and eventually out in the yard, I
Mhm.
didn't even want it in the room where I was painting. I started noticing that I would be even more creative. I would be like,
Mm,
"Ooh, what would happen if I used my hands? What would happen if I used this pine cone I picked up on my walk with my
yeah.
dog?" And so there's begins this sense of really exploring who we are
Mhm,
in a way that is without those old stories or old
mhm.
judgments or old identities, those old patterns of how
Yeah,
we see ourselves.
I love that. I'm reminded, listening to your words about becoming the bully to yourself. I'm reminded of, Maya Angelou's, um, quote around, and I'm not gonna say it the way she wrote it, I just wanna summarize it, that we remember how people treat us. We remember how we feel when we're with them. It's not necessarily that we remember the things they do, we just remember how we felt.
Mhm,
And so if we treat ourselves poorly, then what's that say about how we feel about ourselves and in our own bodies? How do we feel in our own skin?
mhm,
And how much rejection do you give yourself? And when you do that, it allows you to treat others in the same way as well.
mhm.
And
Absolutely.
so I think that that is something to really think about, and how you could shift some of that inner conversation by revealing it and, like you said, putting her in the corner and like, "No, you go sit over there. We're not doing that." You know? And then that allowed you to have more, connection with yourself in a deeper way.
Yeah.
So, that's what our conversation was about today. I hope that all of you, receive something really good out of this because, creativity and art can be the way that you tap into those parts of yourself if you're interested in taking that journey. And if you are, then Vasi has a free session that she offers people. And I also have a community called the Art of Awareness, and it's for women where you get to come in and participate in art circles and creative circles where you learn a lot about yourself based on the theme. And we do art in order to reveal those parts of ourselves. And you're in a supportive environment with other women. So, Vasi, is there something else that you would like to add to this as we end our conversation today?
I would like to invite people to the next time that you get that creative nudge to say yes to it
Mhm.
and not let that inner critic stop you.
Yeah.
Just before that can come in, as soon as possible, when you have that inspiration, take action on it, follow it through, and love yourself
Mm.
as you're creating. Find ways to be supportive, to be your own best friend, and send your inner critic out of the room while you're doing that,
Yeah.
and you'll have a much better time. And rinse and repeat, as the saying goes. So do that and keep doing it in whatever way your creativity is showing up. Show up for yourself
Yeah.
first and foremost.
And I just wanna add to what you just said is that I can tell you from my own experience that the more that you let go of your own judgment of what you're doing, the easier it gets, the more you open up to something that's different that you didn't really realize you had inside of yourself. So,
Beautiful.
thank you. Thank you so much, Vasi, and thank you, everyone. You can reach us in the notes below. You will find us. I've got everything already there in the links. So we will see you next week. And thank you so much for dropping in.